Hi, Joshua again. I'm an INTP, and I am creating this video again as another cognitive exercise and oratorial and rhetorical exercise. And particularly the topic I want to talk about in this video is the burden of existence and the NF. So, when we're talking about, at least when I'm talking about typology, the way I see personality is it's a mode of being. It's how someone exists. It's not necessarily what they do, it's who they are or what they are. What I mean is mode of being I hope is just a good descriptive tool in saying that people, they not only see the world differently, but they experience the world differently because of their personality. Temperament is a factor that runs deep, and it seems to be a predetermined thing, and it seems to be the basis just for how somebody is really going to get through the world. When you're talking about somebody having a dominant function, they cannot help but to be that thing. Not even at a conscious level. If you look at somebody who has extroverted feeling as their dominant function, they're not trying and they're not thinking about it. It's same. I'm an INTP. I have introverted thinking as my dominant function. I'm not trying to be analytical. I'm not trying at all. It is just what I am. And when I look at personality, I think of it more in the aspect that Jung possibly thought about it. It's that you have a representation or an archetypal expression of what it means to be human. And this thing diverges into several, or at least 16 archetypes, as in Jung's model. And these things and these archetypes describe existence, or they're the framework at which somebody's personality or somebody's persona and ego are going to emerge from, and it's going to be limited to it. So when I'm thinking of personality, when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about somebody's mode of existence, and that's the best descriptive tool and measure I can come to, at least so far, in describing what that means, and possibly will be better in the future. But I need to get that out so that I can start talking about the NF and existentialism. So, an NF, they're an intuitive feeling type, and they're probably the type that's most susceptible and vulnerable to existential crises, and it's because NF to me means cosmopoetic. They have a meaning-rich field view of the world that they, what I mean is that they imbue meaning and causal elements into nature and into things that are immaterial. They ascribe properties to the world that just don't come or just aren't readily apparent to the other types, because we don't have introverted feeling, and we don't have extroverted feeling, and we don't have introverted intuition, extroverted intuition together. When you put an intuition with a feeling function, it by necessity it's going to create, I suppose one could say, a framework that is rich and laden in need for meaning. And that, to me, is what's so interesting and so dangerous, or potentially dangerous for the NF, and something that may be ignorant to all the other types. And when they look and they view NFs, about just the existential burden that comes with their lives. I mean, as an NT, I can relate to an existential burden in dealing with nihilism and just a disappointment with existence, but I don't think I quite understand or do it to the degree that NFs can do. I'm not saying all NFs do, but I do think all NFs at some point in their life goes through an existential crises. And personality, its role, or as Jung proposed it, its role and its tool was self-actualization. What it's here for is to help people self-overcome and become and unify themselves with their higher self and be able to step over and transcend nihilism. So to dig further into this this idea, or just really this observation about what it means to be NF, it seems to me that NF means a being that is determined by meaning. It's so it's foreign and it's strange to me, but what do I mean by being determined by meaning? I mean precisely that NFs, they place meaning in the environment, they abstract meaning from the environment, and they are concerned with meaning in the environment, and they're concerned with it in wholly a different fashion than I think that any other type is. That they're just tremendously affected by the world, and in a way we just can't conceive and understand. And it's something I see from an outside perspective as an NT with many NF friends, but still I am ignorant and incapable of describing what this burden actually is. But what I can say and what I can tell other people about the NF is that NFs, they need meaning. Meaning is what they're concerned with. Meaning is what they care about. It's not merely just sitting there and validating their emotions. So you validate an NF's emotions. Is that really what is being pulled out of that experience by the NF? No, it's that this person acknowledges my existence, and they acknowledge what constitutes this existence. So therefore, there's some hope in the world that people acknowledge other people in their authentic state. NFs, they struggle with the paradox of authenticity. I don't know any type that really cares about authenticity like an NF. And juxtaposing manners between ENFPs, INFPs, and ENFJs and INFJs, because ENFPs and INFPs, they're so set on being themselves and authentic, where INFJs and ENFJs give up the self to maintain the cohesion of the environment. But the INFJ and the ENFJ are so dastardly and crazily aware that they are just like this floating self out in the abyss of the abyss of uncertainty, and they wash through this sea of emotions and transcendental experiences, but where they are in that, they don't really know, and they don't particularly believe there's such thing as a self. It's some of them, at least like one of my closest INFJ friends, he thinks like that, and there's another, she thinks like that. And it's so funny to me because the ENFJ and the INFJ, they don't say that they have a concrete self, but they still at the same time care about the self. It's just funny to me because it's ironic. And the even though they have these differing dispositions, the four of them, to each other, they're the same sort of entity. They're the same sort of thing at which that cares about the self and its relation to meaning. The ENFJ, the INFJ, they give up the self so that they can bring a more holistic, authentic meaning that helps people transcend nihilism and helps them overcome just the material and dreary aspects of this world. But then the ENFP and the INFJ, they do the same thing, but they do the same thing through championing the self and maintaining it and helping it shine and emerge forth in a powerful way in this world to sort of be a guiding light and an expectation, a new mode for people, are a light really that people can walk and climb upon and be washed from just their lazy and socially inundated ways of thinking that they might have never questioned, and gives room for the minority and champions what has been cast off, shadowed, and lost in society, but may be wholly necessary to its homeostasis and its benefit. Um, the NFs, they're just interesting types to me, and I felt I should make this video because I don't think people get to dive into the world of NFs, because NFs, they have a hard time being articulate. They do, in the way that at least I do in being able to use descriptive tools. Not always, but I think a lot of times. And I don't know necessarily if anybody has the same sort of analytical perspective that I do about NFs, and so far that they're things that need meaning. I guess I could say I guess I could say it as simply as they're the meaning types. It's not to say that, because to me, meaning is fundamental to human existence, period, across the types. But I know no type that is more concerned with meaning than the NFs. And thank you, NFs, and hopefully you enjoyed the video.